Okay, guys, so it's brew day. We're gonna brew a batch of beer, and my brother right now is filling up the pot, and we're gonna have 5 gallons of water. So he's got this handy dandy Pyrex measuring cup thing. Did you get all the way to the line? Looks a little short.
Hey, we're not talking about my height here.
We're not talking about your height, no. We're talking about water. All right.
So this is going to take a while because this only does 4 cups at a time.
This does 4 cups, and it takes 16 cups for a gallon. So it's going to take a while. One.
If you couldn't tell, we're brothers.
All right. Most important thing on brew day is to have a beer. Where's your beer?
I haven't gotten it out of the fridge. You want to do that for me?
You need a good beer.
I got to drive tomorrow.
You can't have
Oh,
Bud
you
Light.
can't pour water and have the door open at the same time.
No, it's a manufacturer feature.
That's dumb. Why would they put a split? Are you still recording?
It doesn't have to be that exact. Here's what we're going to do, bro. We're not going to do 5 gallons. Because it's painful just watching you do it. Let's just do like 2.5 gallons.
2.
2. Let's do 2.5 gallons. What do you say?
I gotta get a beer. Drink this good stuff that you can't find out here.
Oh God! I can't believe we're making a home brewing video and you're drinking Bud Light.
Yep.
I don't even know if that was on the screen. Was it on the screen when you held it out there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to be making a Marzen, which is a traditional Oktoberfest beer from Germany. If you want to make the exact same beer, it comes from Pazien's amazing book, and it's called the Winky Dink Marzen. Winky Dink Marzen. On my edition, it's on page 184. It's an awesome beer. I've made it a few times. I have a couple twists that I've made to it in the past that have made it very non-Marzen-like, but still a delicious beer. But this is just going to be straight up following his recipe this time. I'm hoping I'm going to brew several batches of beer in the next week or two so that I can be ready for this Oktoberfest coming up in a few months. Was that number 3?
It's 3.
3. 75% of a gallon. Easier to fill than the empty milk jug though.
Alright. That's 1 gallon.
1 gallon. Hey guys. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and measure out the hops that I need so that I've got them ready and set aside. The recipe, one part of it calls for 1 1/4 ounce and one part calls for 1/2 ounce. So I'm using a scale here and just setting it up. I put the empty bowl on there and hit the T button to 0 it out and grab some scissors here. So this is, each one of these packets is 1 ounce, so should be 1 ounce there. 1.03, close enough. And so I'm just going to do 1/4 ounce here. Get it up to about 1 1/4. A little too much. I don't know how precise you need to be. I used to not have a scale, and I used to just kind of eyeball it, and everyone liked the beer. So I think if you have a friend that doesn't like your free beer and they critique your recipe,
that's not a very good friend.
You just don't give them free beer anymore.
Yeah.
That's the way that works.
Yeah.
Close enough. Alright, that's 1.27, and I'm going to grab another empty bowl and set this up for the 1/2 ounce. Like I said, it's probably not all that critical, but since I have the scale, might as well use it. Alright, I think that's the only thing I have to weigh. all the other ingredients have already been weighed and crushed and things like that. So there's a part of the recipe calls for a few different grains that don't come in an extract. So those I went ahead and got at the homebrew store, my local homebrew store, and they crushed it there for me. So I've got that ready to go. That's the easiest way to get started as a home brewer. I mean, otherwise you gotta buy grain in bulk, and then you have to buy a thing to crush it and everything. The best way to do it is to crush it fresh, like the day you brew it, which isn't always an option. And then I've got a grain bag that I'm going to use to mash the grains with. So we should be good there. All right, I think we're ready to roll. So this is I'm using a gas stove. You can do it on electric. Here's the big thing. If you do very much home brewing, you're probably going to want to get a propane outdoor burner. I may end up getting a propane one, or seeing if I can get a natural gas one, or get a propane one and convert to natural gas, because I have natural gas at the house. The benefit of the outdoor burners is they produce a lot more BTUs. So they get the, oh yeah, I should talk towards the camera.
Yeah.
So they get the water to the temperature you want it to be at quicker and more efficiently. The gas stovetop does an okay job. I have one of these quick boil burners, which I believe is something like 22,000 BTU, which is nowhere near the outdoor burners. Those are like
37 and up.
They're way bigger now. I think they're like 75,000 BTU or something. But anyway, so it still takes me a little while to get it to temperature. I have a friend of mine that's been homebrewing. He does a lot of all grain, so he's not using these extract cans where they've already mashed the grain and everything. He's just doing everything he does is grain. He has like 15-pound bags of grain delivered to his house, but he still does it on the stovetop. So it's very doable to just stay on a stovetop for quite a while. It just takes a long time to get the water to the right temperature. And I believe he has an electric stovetop, but I think he has two burners that he puts the pot. He has a large enough pot and it goes across two burners. So that I think helps him out. That's it. So right now I'm on a gas burner and I've just got it slowly going up in temperature. Right now it's at 90 degrees. Yeah, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius. And we're going to want to get this up to somewhere between 150 and 160 so that we can steep the grains. So the way to think about this is just like making tea. You're getting it to the right temperature, and then the grains go in this ginormous tea bag, if you will, and then we steep it for a certain amount of time. It just takes a lot longer for beer than it does for a tea. It takes about 30 minutes with this recipe to steep these grains. So we are between 150 and 160. So we're about to do the grains. What?
I just wanted to make sure everyone knew I was still here.
Oh, just come over here if you want.
That's okay.
I don't know. It's
I'm
kind of a
staying
small,
out of the view.
It's a small kitchen and we're in a tight space. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the lid off the pot I have on there just to hold in the temperature a little bit nicer and easier. Set that off to the side. So right now it's at 157. Since I took the lid off, it's probably going to drop down a little bit. So just to keep things from getting too messy, I've got a standard bowl here. I'm going to use that. Actually, that's probably not big enough. Never mind. Scratch that. I'm going to do it over the sink. So I'm going to open the bag of grains. I can figure out how they tied it. There we go. Alrighty, scissors. We're professionals here, guys. Just so you know. In case there was any doubt, we are the best of the best.
I take no claim in the professional part. I'm only a professional at drinking the beer.
That has been proven time and again.
Well,
Although
we are German.
Although I don't know that you can really be a professional at drinking beer and then still drink Bud Light.
Hey,
I mean,
that's not what I drank all night last night.
okay, so I've got. What'd you drink? Oh yeah, that's right, Eggenberg. All right, so we've got grain in the grain bag, and I'm just gonna go ahead and place that in here. And I'm gonna move it around a little bit, make sure that it gets water all the way through there. This is my first time using one of these grain bags instead of the disposable variety. So we'll see how this goes. I'm just gonna kind of tie it onto the handle here. Doesn't seem like there's as much to tie with as what I'm used to on the disposable ones. So we'll see how that goes. Adding the grain, it's bumped the temperature up just a little bit. So this is probably the most tedious and critical part of the beer brewing process, is making sure that the temperature stays in the appropriate range. That's the best temperature to get all the sugars out of that grain and get it in, get all the flavor and everything out that you want. If it goes too hot, you can get additional tannins in there that's going to make the beer bitter. If it gets too cool, I guess you just don't get anything. So it's really important. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the timer. 30 minutes, and we'll see what we do. You can see here, sorry for the quality, it's on my cell phone so I don't have to unmount the camera, but the temperature is between 150 and 160. It's pretty steady right now, and this is what the water starts to look like as the grains are steeping. It depends obviously on what type of grains you're using, and that's basically it. So I just put the bag in, the grains are completely submerged, and I tied it on the handle like that just to keep it the rope from falling in, so I don't have to burn my hand getting it out. So and just monitoring the temperature.
So we do this for 30 minutes for this particular brew, and there is just under 14 minutes remaining.
Yep. That's it. We just did 30 minutes steeping between 150 and 160. It actually was closer to 160 most of the time, but didn't really go over 160, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and pull the bag out. I've just got something to put it in here. One trick you can do, they recommend, but I don't have the time right now to do it or the patience, is you heat up the other batch of water to be the 150 to 160 temperature, and you pour that over these grains. And they call that, I think that's what they call sparging. I don't know. I'll let you guys look it up. That'll be an exercise for the viewer. I'm no pro. Alright. I'm just going to let that, and I'll just put that over here in the sink for now. Alright guys, so now comes the fun part. I'm going to put the lid back on so we can hold in some of the heat. And we want to get this thing up to a nice boil. So I'm going to crank this up, move everything away so we don't get things on fire. I'm going to watch this for a while. It's going to take a little while to get up to boil. So grab yourself a nice cold beer and, I don't know, find something fun to do. Smoke them if you got them.
Alright, I'll be back.
Hey guys, so there's another little trick I wanted to let you in on. I've seen so many different videos on home brewing, and I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably done a lot of research online too, so you probably heard a lot of this stuff, so I apologize. But I'm using extract in this beer as well. And what you can do with the extract is really heavy, thick syrup. So basically it's what we just did with the mash, except they boil off as much of the water as they can, and they just put it into this, they can it for us. But what that means is it's hard to get it all out of the bottle or out of the can. So what I do, and I'm waiting on this to get to the boil, and so now's like a great time to do it. Hi bro, I'm doing something else with the video. I'm telling them what I really think of you. Okay, so what I do is I take a small saucepan like this, and I go ahead and add a little water, and get that on another burner, and that way that'll help soften up what's inside there, and it'll help loosen that up, warm it all up, and it will come out much easier when we're ready to pour that in, which is going to be coming up soon. So we're at 175 degrees. So we're about ready to start adding stuff once it gets to a nice rolling boil. We'll check back in. So we've got a nice boil going. It's what they call a rolling boil. So you can see the water just really rolling in there in the pot. So I'm ready to start adding some ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and add the malt extract first. I've got one can that's already warm, and I'm using this paddle stir to try to make sure that it doesn't scorch on the bottom of the pot. And my favorite can opener. It's my favorite can opener because it opens the can on the side instead of in the groove. Most can openers do. Whew. Be prepared. It gets warm in the kitchen when you're making beer. You got a lot of stuff running really hot for quite a while. Alright, so safety first. This here. Grab another one of these mitts. Pick it up like a nuclear reactor rod. Alright. And I'm going to stir it as I pour it. You don't want this to burn on the bottom if you can help it. Another really important thing to learn when you do this, and I learned this the hard way, unfortunately, is you want to have this defoaming spray, or droplets. I'll show you what it is here in a second. And where's that? You want to have this close by. The reason I say that is because if your pot isn't deep enough, like mine's huge. This is a 40 quart pot, so it can handle a lot. But I used to do a much smaller boil, and it has an issue when you add the hops and everything that it starts to foam up. It agitates the liquid, and if you're not careful, it'll foam up and overflow and all over your stove and the floor and down the side of your counters. The cabinets, it just becomes a mess, and you can only imagine the thick malt extract syrup all over everything. It gets down. I don't know if you can hear that. No matter how much I clean, there's somewhere seeping in, and it makes everything a little sticky. Not sticky that you touch, but sticky with all the moving parts. So I learned it the hard way. Never again. So if you start to see it foam up, you just put a drop or two of this in. It says right on it, blah 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 blah. It's not good stuff, so you don't use it. A typical starting point is 1 drop in a 5-gallon batch. So you don't want to use too much of it. It's really poisonous. But it's either that or destroying your entire stove. Sometimes 1 drop isn't going to kill you. So I'm going to go ahead and add. I did 1 can of the malt extract. I'm going to go ahead and add the hops now. So this is 1 1/4 ounce of hops. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. And I'm just adding them in little bits here as I watch the foam to make sure it doesn't go wild. Even though my beer that I've got here, it's just above this little groove in the pan. It's not very little liquid. I mean, it would have to like quadruple or more in size to even think about overflowing. All right, so there's an ounce and a quarter of those hops, and I'm going to go ahead and get this other can of extract in there. I'm just rotating it so I can get both ends a little bit warm before I open it and put it in. So this has to go in for 60 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start that timer. And where's my opener? There it is. Got anything to add, Jay? You're not even going to say no? You're just shaking your head? Alright. I swear he's here. I didn't kidnap his camera or his channel. I didn't. There you go. Drink another beer, you'll be more talkative. Alright, I'm going to put this last can in. I really hope you edit this down. Oh, look at that, I forgot to hit record. Just kidding. Lighten up, bro. Alright. Nasty, sticky stuff. Really? At least you could do is sit here and stir. Alright. Really? I thought you were going to mess with the people and just pop up on the other side of the camera. Wait, did you spill something in my living room?
No.
Why'd you come and get paper towels then?
I'll tell you when your camera shut off.
Oh man, what'd you do?
I did nothing. I'm cleaning up something for you. Like I said, I'll tell you when your camera's off.
Was it from the cat? Alright. I think that's it for that now. I'm going to put the lid back on, try to get it back up to a nice rolling boil since it's kind of subsided a bit. And you want to keep stirring it every so often. Keep it from scorching on the bottom. This is also a great time to start filling up your 5-gallon brew bucket or whatever you use, conical or whatever it is you use, with Star Sand. And if you didn't watch the other video, or if it hasn't come out, or it comes out after this one, or I don't know when Jay's going to do it, this is Star Sand. You do 1 ounce of this with 5 gallons of water, and it's going to sanitize everything. So I got to go ahead and do that now. And this has almost a full hour to boil, and we'll check back. Hey guys, so anyway, the boil takes a while, so I took the time to clean up and change. What we do with the boil is we follow the recipe first off, so go ahead and follow whatever recipe you have. If your recipe is the same one I've got, it says to add hops at 2 minutes before the end of the boil. Now, the other thing that I always add with my beers is an agent to help clarify the beer, help make it clear. Because we don't filter it and run it through a whole process like professional brewers do, but we want to try to prevent it from being super cloudy and hazy looking. So what I use is just a real cheap product you can pick up with when you pick up your beer ingredients. This is Irish moss. There's other things you can use. I don't know if this will focus. There we go. Maybe. Hold on. Haha. Touch screen for the win. There we go. So it's called Irish moss, and it does. You put in 1 teaspoon 15 minutes before the boil's over. So you know, you just keep your eye on the clock. You're watching the temperature and stirring it occasionally anyway, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Drop a teaspoon of this in with 15 minutes left of the boil, and then the hops with 2 minutes left of the boil. So we do that. The beer is just now finished. We went ahead and turned the burners off. Some salesmen came to the door, so we got slightly distracted. Hopefully that doesn't happen on your brew day. Now, what I'm going to do here is I've got a cooling rack type thing. I'm going to set that up here, and I am setting up a cooling system here. I don't know if you can see. Let's rotate. Do. Oh, not like that.
Put jeans on if I'm going back outside.
Let's rotate this way. There we go. Alright. I've got to move everything. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this. You probably want to use your gloves if it's still boiling hot, but it's been a few minutes since we had some salespeople here annoying us. Go ahead and drop the lid off. So, hopefully at this point you've been sanitizing your stuff. So I did the Star San and did a 5-gallon bucket of that. I went ahead and cleaned off things and sanitized them for the next brew day. So for example, the grain bag, I went ahead and got that clean and sanitized, and that's all ready for the next brew. Which the sanitizing part is somewhat optional because it's going to be used before the boil, so everything that boils is going to be sanitized on its own. But went ahead and put it in there. Then I've got a couple other things. Oh, this is, don't worry about that. So I've got the chiller and a the glass measuring thing that we used earlier. So let's put the glass measuring thing there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chiller in the beer, or the vert as it's called now. It's not beer yet. And I have an attachment on the sink faucet. I can go ahead and attach this so I can run cold water from the sink into it. Go ahead and put the hose down there so we don't have water running all over the place. Alright. So, I believe I've got everything sanitized that I need. One thing you want to do at this stage is make sure you have a spray bottle like this. And I always clean this when I clean everything, and then I fill it up with fresh sanitizing solution. There's always going to be something in the process you forgot to sanitize, and you're going to want to spray down things like the lid and stuff like that before you put it all together. Also, on a similar note, you want to go ahead and get your airlock. This goes in the lid, and you want to go ahead and get that kind of set up and ready. So this is already clean. I'm just going to go ahead and fill it up with sanitizing solution. And there's a little max fill line on there, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And what this does, if you're not familiar, it lets air out, it lets CO2 out actually when the yeast eats, and then it doesn't allow anything in because it's a water lock. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the lid and set that off to the side. I'm just putting it there to hold on to for now. Now, so I've got the cooling thing in there. Go ahead and run cold water through it and hopefully bring that temperature down a little bit. The vert in here is down to about 80 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and run this siphon. This is an auto siphon, and run the beer that's in here into the bucket. And that's already got a couple gallons, or maybe a gallon and a half of water, cold water in it. There we go. Okay, so I'm siphoning that beer now from the brew kettle down into the bucket, and we'll add enough cold water to get it up to 5 gallons. Check the temperature, and hopefully we'll be able to pitch some yeast. Again, this came in really handy because I had forgotten to sanitize the siphon, so I was able to clean that up and sanitize it. I've got all the beer from the kettle into the brew bucket. I put a couple gallons of cold water in there before I transferred it, and went ahead and topped it off to get it to 5 gallons. Went ahead, threw the thermometer in here. It's still about, it says it's 80 degrees. It should be colder than that. It was chilled water I put in here, and it was 80 degrees. The vert was 80 degrees before I put it in, so I'm guessing it just hasn't come down yet properly. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and put the yeast in. So I've got the yeast here, and I'm doing 2 packets of yeast. Normally I get liquid yeast and I do a yeast starter, but I'm not doing that this time, so went ahead and did 2 packets instead of 1 packet of yeast. So I went ahead and putting that in. So that should get active pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and sanitize all of this. Make sure all this is sanitized. So that'll get the fermentation process underway. So what we'll do next is we'll put this in a dark, cold area. The first couple days, I'll shake it to stir up the yeast. So I'll put my foot against the bucket and just kind of shake it like that. After about a week, the fermentation should be done. I'll pull this lid off, clean and sanitize another bucket, and I'll use this racking cane, this auto siphon, to rack it into another bucket. That'll leave all the sediment that falls out of the beer in the bottom of the first bucket. Clean all that out. The second bucket, you can leave it there for a couple weeks. 1 week I would do at least the minimum. Then we'll go ahead and keg it, and we can leave it kegged and on pressure for quite some time. And that's about it. Thank you.